All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the August 11th, 2025 meeting of the Franklin Historic Zoning Commission. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Our first item on the agenda is the meeting minutes from last week, or last month, excuse me. Would anyone like to entertain a motion to approve the July 14th, 2025 minutes?
Mr. Chair, move to approve.
Okay, Brian, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Bob, thank you. Any discussion, corrections, amendments? Okay, hearing none, let's vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Get those to staff after. All right, let's go to our staff members here for announcements, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have a regularly scheduled Design Review Committee meeting next Monday, August 18th, and it begins at 4 o'clock here at the Eastern Flank Event Facility, and the deadline to apply is midnight tonight. Additionally, applicants, if you are invited to attend a DRC meeting in response to the action taken on your item, and you would like to attend the next available DRC meeting, please email staff by midnight tonight with your intent to be on the agenda for the next meeting on August 18th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, let's go to our citizen comment portion of the meeting. This is open for citizens to be heard on any issue or concern. If you'd like to speak on a specific agenda item, please wait until the citizen comment for that particular item. For all other citizen comments, please fill out a speaker card, give it to staff, they'll get it to me, and come up to the microphone, state your name and address, and try to keep your comments to about 2 minutes. Always like when people keep to the time, then I don't have to say anything. All right, are there any citizens here who wish to speak on an item that's not on the agenda? Okay, I see none. So we received 2 public comments that have been published with the agenda packet for items 12 and 13, and we'll now move on to item number 2, which is consideration of alterations of principal structure at 802 Fair Street. Bill Clark is the applicant, and we'll have Elizabeth do our staff presentation. If Bill wants to head up here to the podium and hang out just a minute for staff. Thank you. Elizabeth?
Thank you. The property located at 802 Fair Street is located in the Hinchyville National Register Historic District, and this site features a circa 1924 side gable cottage principal building, which is contributing to the district. This proposal today includes a request to replace all of the existing aluminum siding with new Ply Gem Envoy aluminum siding intended to match the existing material. An exact material for in-kind replacement is no longer manufactured, and a close match for the material is proposed. The applicant has noted beneath the existing aluminum siding, there is not consistent siding found on the house that is of other material. As the age of the material is not known, replacing with what is proposed, similar to what is existing, is appropriate with an in-kind material with a similar appearance, and this does not negatively impact the historic significance as the aluminum siding is presently on the building. Staff recommends approval of the siding replacement with conditions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Would you like to add anything?
Nothing.
Nothing at all?
Nothing at
Okay. Are there any citizens here who wish to comment on this particular item? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Clark, if you'll have a seat, we may call you back up if we have questions. Thank you so much. All right, let's go to the commission. I would take a motion here.
Move for approval with staff conditions.
Okay. Michael, any second?
I'll second.
Okay. Madeline, thank you so much. Any discussion? Nobody? All right. Got a motion on the floor and second to approve with staff recommendation and staff conditions. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Mr. Clark, thank you very much. There he is. Item number 3, consideration of alterations, principal roof materials at 1835 William Campbell Court. That's Magnolia Hall, Lot 2. Elizabeth has our staff presentation. If Ms. Lombard wants to make her way up to follow her up, please.
Thank you. The property located at 1835 William Campbell Court is located in the Boyd Mill Avenue Historic District and is Lot 2 of the Magnolia Hall, so the first house you see. The proposal includes an alteration to the approved plans to change the roof material on the conical porch element from asphalt shingle to standing seam metal. The standing seam metal that is proposed is found on the front facade of the building already over the box bay window. So the use of standing seam metal roof is appropriate for the roof covering material on the front porch, and staff recommends approval of the roof material alteration on the front porch with conditions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Lombard?
I just wanted to point out that the reason for the change was because our shingle manufacturer would not warranty shingles on that shape, and we do have samples of the material if you would like to see them.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, any citizens want to comment on this one? Okay, I see none. I'll take a motion from one of the commissioners.
Motion to approve with staff conditions.
Okay, Madeline?
I'll second.
Brian, thank you. Any discussion? Man, you're a talkative bunch tonight. All right, hearing none, I'll say that I don't have any, I like that it coordinates and has a little metal. I think this started out with a little metal on it at some point, didn't it? It did, that's what I thought. So this is a return to, I think we're trying not to draw too much attention to it. In the shingle was probably a little bit toned down from that, but I think it makes sense why they need it to be metal. It's a little low sloped, so. All right, let's vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve with staff conditions, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you very much. Item number 4, consideration of signage and lighting at 230 Franklin Road, the Carousel Building. And I have Renee, close. David, you're going to come? Okay. David, if you'll hang out here, Elizabeth's going to give us a staff report quickly, and you can follow her up, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So the property located at 230 Franklin Road is located in the Franklin Road Historic District, and this proposal includes the request for the installation of 2 wall signs on the new Carousel Building at the factory. The signs are proposed to be installed over the entrance and windows on the front and rear elevations, and the signs will be 19 feet by 4 feet and 6 inches, or 85.5 square feet each. And the signs will be located approximately 17 feet 6 inches from grade. The guidelines recommend the following for wall signs: to be at maximum a sign area of 9 square feet and proportionate to the building facade, and to be at maximum a height of 12 feet from grade. The proposed size exceeds the recommended size maximum of 9 square feet, and the placement exceeds the recommended maximum height of 12 feet from grade. Staff recommends denial of the application based on the following guidelines for wall signs for the sign area and maximum height from grade. However, if the commission votes to approve the application, there are recommended conditions as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Click,
Yes,
anything you want to add there?
I'm sorry?
Anything you want to add to staff's report there?
No, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of you all, but we did rework the proportions of this sign, getting us down to 57.5 square feet, which align with what was already approved, a mural that was already approved for one of these elevations. So we were able to keep the sign keep the sign looking the same, keep the proportions the same, but just overall scale is reduced down to 57.5 square feet.
Okay. And staff, just remind us, so was the mural going to go in this same location, kind of in that gable?
Yes, so a mural was approved with the modification of standards for placement here. The mural itself was never reviewed or proposed, so they're proposing a wall sign instead in this location, the same one. With the modifications of standards, they were approved prior to alterations were made to this building, so it kind of changed the location that it could be into.
Okay.
There were windows added that pushed it
Okay.
higher.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Click. If you'll have a seat, we'll see if there's any citizens here who want to comment on this. Okay, I don't see any. All right, let's hear from the commission. A motion, please. Sure.
I move to deny based on staff conditions, and the reason is that I think the style of the design, I don't think has enough historic significance to justify going against the standards. So I would be open to a different, kind of a more significant sign, like a more historically significant sign, if it's going to be bigger.
Okay. Do we have a second to the motion for denial? Anybody? Give you a second to think about it.
Question for staff.
Okay, go ahead.
Have y'all seen the revised sign that the applicant just mentioned, and is it acceptable?
It would meet the zoning ordinance requirements for a wall sign, and it would be the same location and placement. It would just be reduced a little bit.
So is that the, if the commission votes to approve option is?
Yes.
Yes, it would still be against R2 guidelines of height and square footage, but it would be under the modification of standards.
It would be meeting the general intent of the zoning ordinance today.
Okay, okay. All right, so I didn't get a second on that motion, so let's hear maybe another motion from someone else, or the same person. Anybody?
I'm going to move to approve, Mr. Chair, with staff comments, that the sign area must not exceed 57.5 inches.
Square feet, correct?
Yeah, to square
Is that-
feet,
Is
yes.
that the right, just making sure, okay.
To align with the zoning ordinance.
Okay,
And it also aligns with the intent of the modification of standards.
okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Bob. Any discussion? No discussion?
So what we're seeing right here is before the modification?
Yeah, that's the supersized version. So it'll be reduced.
By how much?
Do we know, is it like, if you had to put a percentage on it, is it 70% or half or? Well, there's 85 and they're going to 50, so it's
Mhm.
46%. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not good at math. Go ahead.
The new
Go ahead.
one, yeah, it equals out to 57.5 square feet. Our width is reduced from 19 feet to 15.7.
Okay.
And then our height, which was 4.5 feet, is reduced to 3'8".
And for all of us who don't have an internal tape measure,
Oh, well, okay,
is
that's a
it,
good point.
is it like the width of the windows below maybe?
Exactly,
Is
yeah.
it close to
Yeah,
that?
very close to
Okay.
that. It'll extend just maybe 2 to 3 inches on each side, but it's essentially going to match the width of those windows you see there.
Okay.
That's helpful, thank you.
Yeah, and I
Any
was
other
gonna-
comments?
I was
Go
just going to comment that if they could do something within the scope of that window, at least with it or within it, it would actually, I think, help the aesthetic of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't go 12 feet, they have to go more than 12 because of the windows. So I think it's a reasonable request.
Okay. Holly?
I think if it fits within that window above there, so the what you're asking to approve isn't what we're looking at, is that right? Or it is?
That's, the dimensions are different. The sign looks the exact same color scheme, same font, it's just smaller.
Okay. Well, I think if it's smaller, it could be whatever you want, it would look fine. I think if it's going to be huge, I think it needs to look different. So in that case,
Okay.
I would be okay with that.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, let's vote. We have a motion on the floor to approve with the staff conditions that are in there. Did you have something? Staff have a comment?
You may want to clarify with the condition where the sign would be located, not exceeding the window width,
Sure.
because that isn't in staff's condition.
Right, their condition is purely a square footage based on zoning. So if we want it to be within the bounds of the windows, you might say so, or if you're okay if it's really close, then, yeah. Yeah, I'm comfortable either way. Is everybody?
I agree.
Is that, okay. All right, let's vote on the motion to approve with staff conditions. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. The ayes have it. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Click. Item number 5, consideration of awning at a principal structure at 900 Fair Street. Stephen Scott is our applicant if he wants to make his way up, and Elizabeth has another staff report for us. Thank you.
Thank you. So the property located at 900 Fair Street is located in the Hinchyville National Register Historic District, and this site features a circa 1895 one-story building, which is contributing to the district. The applicants attended the June and July DRC meetings, and feedback has been incorporated into the application. This proposal includes the removal of the existing green arched fabric awning and installation of a copper awning with brackets over the entrance to the front porch. The proposed awning style utilizes a Juliet design, and the bracket design is proposed to be a metal and use a scroll design. The guidelines recommend the following: to use duck canvas or cotton and polyester blends with or without acrylic treatment and avoid vinyl awnings, and that new architectural features should not be added. The use of a copper material for an awning is not supported by the guidelines, and the proposed brackets add an ornamental detail that is not seen elsewhere on the front facade of the historic building. Staff recommends denial of the application based on the following guidelines: to use a material that aligns with the guidelines, and that new architectural features should not be added. If the commission votes to approve the application, there are conditions recommended. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Scott, anything you want to add?
Sure. Just we understand that the copper materials would not be prevalent in the historic district, although there have been copper awnings approved, and I actually showed a couple of pictures there where the copper is the next one up. That one, I think, did come through the commission and is in place right now. And the color, we believe, we're choosing copper because we know it will patina down to look a lot like the rest of the house that is bronzed. And our fabricator very highly dissuaded against just a standing seam metal. He said that type of awning would not bode well in a metal material that's not copper. It would look cheapened to some degree. So we very much want to get rid of the rounded green cloth awning that I don't think is very aesthetically pleasing to anyone that looks at it. And as far as the brackets go, those are very much not a deal breaker for us from as ornamental or as lack of ornamental as we might, the commission might want. That's not a deal breaker for us. It's more or less we want to get rid of the what's there now and come up with an idea. And then going through the design review committee the last couple of months, I feel like this is the feedback I believe I got and submitted today. So that's kind of where I landed. That's where we landed at, to try to get this done.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. If you'll grab a seat. Any citizens here want to speak to this item? Okay, let's go to the commission for a motion here.
Move for approval of the application with the 3 staff conditions.
Okay, Michael, is there a second?
I second.
Holly, thank you. Any discussion?
If we're approving with staff conditions, does that, mean that we have to go back to the canvas, or can it be the metal?
I think,
Do we need to make an amendment?
yeah, I think that's,
I think the only conditions we had were if the application were being approved against staff's original recommendation, so it would be approving the copper awning.
Okay.
okay, yeah,
Correct.
because the recommendation is for denial. Okay, all right. Anything else? Questions or comments on the, what it looks like, location, massing, scale, material, all the toolbox words?
Is what we're seeing true to scale
I think, I had
in
assumed
this
so.
picture here? Is that true to scale?
That's an AI generated, as true to scale as AI would feed back to me. The scale is actually in the rendering that's got some dimensions on it,
I
if you
saw
wanted to
that,
see.
yeah.
That's, so I believe that the scale you saw in the AI generated version is very close. It looks like it's If anything, there might be another couple of inches of rise to it, but I don't know that that's the case. That looks I believe that's as close as I could get.
Did it get a little shorter from last time?
That's what I'm talking about. If anything, it could be just very, very, very slightly taller than the rendering there, but not,
You can count bricks and see, but it's really
Yeah.
close.
it's really
Yeah.
close.
Yeah, it
It's
does
very
look
close.
Okay, great.
Okay. Anything else?
And does that include the brackets? Are we approving the brackets?
Well, the brackets is in here, there's a drawing of it, so I assume that that's
Okay.
part of the application because they provided a drawing. I think it's on this next page there. Is that the name of the bracket, lazy on tab? Any comments on that?
I think it looks good.
Yeah, I saw it and I thought, well, could be frilly, but we're also looking at a side profile. And there's an image below, that's an actual picture, what looks like that, almost exact profile. And when you get it in a perspective, it's got some decorative, but it's not crazy busy. For a house that's a Tudor, and they've got some ironwork out front that has some scroll work. If you look at their gate, I thought, okay, I can buy that.
It's not massive, it's not going to take over the doorway.
No.
Yeah.
And those canopies are smaller than the one we're talking about too. So I think the canopy's gonna hold a lot of weight on
Well,
top of those.
That bracket looks a little more ornate than what they're proposing. I think what they're proposing looks good.
Yeah, okay. Anything else, anybody? All right, we have a motion to approve from Michael, seconded by Holly, with staff conditions. All those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Item number 6, consideration of site alterations at 1002 Fair Street. Jeff Fleischauer, did I say that right? Okay, if you want to make your way up, and Elizabeth's going to go ahead with our staff comments, please.
Yeah. The property located at 1002 Fair Street is located in the Hinchyville National Register Historic District, and this site features a circa 1885 one-story Queen Anne-style house that has elaborate detailing and a circa 1950 concrete block garage, which are both contributing to the district. The proposal includes a request for 2 site alterations, including the installation of a covered pergola walkway and installation of a pea gravel rain garden. The first request is to install a covered pergola walkway from the rear of the building to the side of the accessory structure, and the second request is for the installation of a pea gravel rain garden in the rear yard. The guidelines recommend the following for other site and setting alterations. Generally, site and setting alterations should be considered as appropriate when they are undertaken in locations that are not visible from public view, do not involve the removal of historic features, and do not detract from or overwhelm the context of the historic districts. The pea gravel rain garden will not be visible from public view, does not involve the removal of the historic features, and does not detract or overwhelm in the context of the historic district. The design of a flat-topped covered pergola walkway will be visible from public view, and a pitched pergola design is not seen in historic districts and may overwhelm in the context of the district. Staff recommends denial of the pergola walkway based on the guideline that the site and setting alterations should be considered appropriate when they are undertaken in locations that are not visible from public view, and staff recommends approval of the pea gravel rain garden with conditions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Applicants, whichever one wants to talk, just let me know who you are.
Well, my name is Jeff Fleischauer. I'm the contractor.
Okay,
We were wanting to do the covered pergola on the walkway simply just to, give us a little bit of protection walking from the house all the way out to the garage. And then the pergola adjacent to that would be just coming off the house at about 10 feet and then coming straight out, and both of which are behind the house completely. So as far as visual from the street, you'd have to really try to see either one. And that's why we had the pergola extending out. We had the exterior kitchen extending out to the east. And after a conversation with staff, we went ahead and truncated that off and brought that in and put everything behind the house to try to keep it within the guidelines.
so show me what things are here. I see the pink walkway, that's
Yes.
open-air pergola above, or is that covered?
Well, we wanted to cover it.
Okay.
That's what we were requesting. And then the open-air pergola goes from it to the east, to the outside of the house line.
So the open-air
Straight up
pergola
paved.
covers that dining table and seating
Yes, sir.
area, outdoor kitchen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was that staff's understanding for the application, was that it was?
No, it was our understanding that the entire walkway was going to be covered with a pergola, and that
Okay.
there,
And it's open air?
yes, a pergola, so
Okay.
not a full roof covering.
Okay. Okay.
We would certainly welcome an open-air covered walkway in lieu of it being covered if the staff would recommend that.
And staff, just to be clear, your recommendation is not for approval based on its visibility?
Well, as a pergola, it's considered a other site and setting alteration, so this wasn't reviewed as like a breezeway connector, because we didn't know it was potentially a fully covered roof walkway. So it's a site and setting alteration that would be visible,
Okay,
and we recommend denial because of the guideline for that.
okay.
If I could, I'm
Sure.
Randy Thompson, I'm one of the owners of the house. And thank you for all you guys do. I wanted to remind myself and bring you in on the conversation of why we're doing this in the first place. I have 3 adult children that all have a genetic disorder called Friedreich's ataxia. That means they need electric wheelchairs. To give you an idea what this is, back in the 1800s, this disease was called creeping paralysis. The older they get, the more infirm they get. They're in their 30s now. They're not disabled. My oldest is getting a doctorate in disability law for the University of Tennessee. My middle daughter actually is a comedian. She's going to be at Madison Square Gardens next week taping a thing for Netflix. And my son is a data analyst for one of the largest healthcare companies around. So they're not disabled or they're not on disability. They're functioning very well. They just can't walk. You know, they can't. So this entire project, the cottage and everything, was to make a space for them when they come visit. Everything in there is going to be ADA compliant. And, you know, bathrooms, kitchen, bedrooms, everything. And I don't know if you have anybody that's ever been stricken with having to be in a wheelchair, but after I've been with them and traveled with them enough for over the past 10 or 15 years, everything's an obstacle. Everything. And so what we're trying to do is remove as many obstacles as possible. I mean, we're paying a lot of attention to even what the surface of the concrete is like as they roll across it. And a neighbor of ours pointed out that we really don't have a way to get from the cottage into our house on a rainy day without getting soaking wet. We hadn't thought about that. As their father, I had not thought about that. So I was like, yeah, let's do whatever we can to make this as an accessible a place for them and thoughtful place for them as we possibly can. So I know you might be able to see some of it from the street, but you know, as a dad, I'm not going to let that stop me to coming to y'all and going, can you give me a way to cover a path so that they don't get wet in an electric wheelchair as they get into our house? And that, you know, that's basically it. That's the whole purpose of this project, was just to create a space for my children when they come visit.
Sure. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Staff, question for you. If it is covered, I know we've seen some breezeways. If it's covered, does that change how it might be considered?
It would change the guideline that it is reviewed under. So for awnings, canopies, and breezeways, there are some recommended guidelines, and visibility is one of the factors is to be a path that lessens its length and expanse. So
Say that again.
choosing a path and location for it that lessens its length and expanse.
Okay. Very good. All right, gentlemen, if you'll grab a seat, we're going to see if there's anybody from the community here that wants to speak. Not seeing anyone here. Okay, let's go to the commission for a motion here. And I guess, based on what you all have heard, you may have to, if you're not going strictly with what staff's saying, you may have to be careful about how you craft your motion. So be thoughtful about that. Holly?
I move to defer until we have more information about what the the guidelines are, if it's covered, and what it would actually look like in like some sort of rendering.
Okay.
I'll
Is there a
second
second
that.
for deferral? Okay. Madeline? Any discussion specific to the deferral, not necessarily the project merits? Yes, sir.
what date are we referring to?
Is that the next voting meeting?
Yeah.
September 8th. Okay. And that second is fine with you, September 8th? Okay. All right, any discussion on the motion to defer?
I would encourage him to come to the DRC.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we can talk about the details a little further.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I agree with Holly. I'd like to see really exactly what it looks like. And some of the images are helpful, but they're not in the exact kind of configuration. I had a hard time telling what was what here. We figured that out, which is fine, but I think the applicant might have a better luck coming back and asking for it covered.
Yes.
May be in better alignment with the guidelines saying it's covered. I think there's some, it sounds like some flexibility for interpretation there based on those guidelines. So I think coming back with a proposal and working with staff on that's a good idea. Anybody else? All right, we have a motion to defer and a second till the September 8th meeting. All those in favor of deferral, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. So staff will reach back out to you on getting back together with us, but I think the discussion was helpful, hearing where you guys are headed with it. So thank you for coming. Okay. Item number 7, consideration of alterations at 230 Franklin Road, the Factory Hotel. And I think David's here for them, if you want to come back up. And then Emily's got our staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The property at 230 Franklin Road is the site of the factory at Franklin, and it is located within the Franklin Road Local Historic District, and it's also on the National Register of Historic Places. Metal roofing, gutters, downspouts on the hotel building, screening of the mechanical equipment on the hotel building, and the change of a portion of the facade that involves windows were included within the application packet. Therefore, preservation staff only reviewed these items, as there are other items that are not called out that have changed from the previous submittals. For the first proposal of the metal roofing, gutters, and downspouts, it's proposed to utilize a Galvalume 5V metal roofing on the building. Silver Galvalume gutters and downspouts are also proposed on the building. There are existing Galvalume and dark-colored gutters and downspouts on the campus, and the use of Galvalume roofing in a 5V metal gutters and downspouts as well appear to meet the guidelines. For the mechanical equipment screening, it's proposed that the mechanical equipment to be screened by the same material as the roof for the new proposed exhaust fans. It's proposed to be screened by the same material as the roof, which will be a 5V Galvalume material. The use of a screening color for the screening of the exhaust fans appeared to blend with the roofing material that was supported by DRC members during the August DRC meeting. And then the final proposal
is the change of design on this facade. On the right facade that will face the parking lot and the railroad line, a small portion of the building is proposed to be altered. The previous design utilized dark metal siding to the ground of the building and 3 large windows on each floor of the building. The proposed change of design will have 4 ground floor windows surrounded by brick, and then dark metal siding will begin above the windows. The guidelines recommend to design new windows to be compatible with the size, placement, rhythm, and relationship of solids to voids of those on nearby historic buildings. It is unknown what the size of the new windows are proposed to be and if they relate to the existing sizes of the windows on the buildings on the factory. Therefore, staff recommends deferral of the change of the facade based on the following grounds: that one should design new windows to be compatible with the size, placement, rhythm, and relationship of solids to voids on those of nearby historic buildings. And staff recommends the approval of the Galvalume 5V metal roofing, Galvalume gutters, Galvalume downspouts, and Galvalume metal screening for the new exhaust fans with conditions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Mr. Click?
Thank you. So I do want to distinguish, so the reason that we're here primarily is to check the box in this last COA item from the last HCC. And so this roof material was that one item. And so that's the most important thing. We want to get the COA finished off so that we can work towards site plan approval. And I don't want the other items to get in the way of that. They're just, as we're adjusting and kind of working towards construction documents, things are going to come up that we'd like to adjust as it comes together. The other items are just part of that. And so we're just bringing that through to you. Just like we will in the future, it'll continue to happen, surely. But those 3 items are ones that we feel confident in, we think are appropriate, and ready to discuss. The other items that are shown on here or apparent on here, but aren't called out, or things that we're still working on, we'll bring it back through to DRC and then back through here as well. So the only item on here that really I need to touch on is the windows, the last sheet. So this is a change primarily dictated by the program inside. The ground floor is a fitness room, and so we wanted to add more windows to it to get more daylight in there. We think that the intention of breaking the building apart is still there. It's intact. The windows are still with the same grid pattern throughout the rest of the building. But if we want to bring back, come back through DRC to discuss this in more detail, we're happy to do that.
Okay. And just point of clarification, I think the staff recommendation said the roof was Galvalume. Somewhere in there it says the gutters and downspouts were Galvalume. In another spot it says they're silver metal, which Galvalume is sort of silver metal. Is it all Galvalume?
It'll be galvanized Galvalume, this sort of
same
material.
finish.
Yeah, I mean, it's all intended to be the same sort of thing.
Okay,
It'll be
just making sure that we weren't getting
no.
silver painted gutters
no.
and downspouts in Galvalume roof.
No, and for those who weren't at the DRC, just some context here, this is the same brick that I just brought in for context for adjacency. There's 2 samples. One is brand new, out of the packaging. The other one is what it will weather to over several years.
Okay, perfect. All right, if you'll grab a seat, Mr. Click. Anyone from the community want to comment on this one? Okay, I see none. Let's go to the commission for a motion. Let's do this. I'd like to hear a motion on all the metal elements, so roof, gutters, downspouts, and screening. And let's hold the windows for a separate motion. Does that sound okay?
I move to approve the Galvalume metal roofing, gutters, downspouts, and metal screening for the exhaust fans with staff recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Madeline, thank you very much. Any discussion on those?
Thank you for bringing that sample in.
Yep.
And do you know how long it takes before it ages to that point?
Yeah, that'll be several years.
Okay.
So 3 to 5 years is probably, it's hard, it's all weather dependent and
Sure.
amount of rain and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Depends how hard they party at Pilgrimage,
Yeah.
how much splashes up there. All right, any other discussion there? No? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve the Galvalume metal on the roofing, gutters, downspouts, and mechanical screening, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now let's deal with these windows. I would take a motion for those ground floor windows. And just to be clear, there's lots of little facade changes, but that's the specific one that's part of this COA, is just under that second block there. I don't know if staff can go back to that. It's just that, those 4 windows under that second black box there, as we've affectionately called it. Motion, please.
I want to move, Mr. Chair, I move to defer to the
Okay.
next voting meeting of the Historic Zoning Commission,
Okay, and that was
September the 8th.
September the 8th. Is there a second for deferral?
Second.
Okay, Bob. Discussion on the deferral?
Yeah, I just have a question. So the last DRC, we didn't see this change. It wasn't part of our discussion at DRC?
Well, we didn't include it in the original narrative to staff, but I brought it up and we discussed it during the conversation.
We did talk about it, I remember.
But it was,
Yeah. My thought is I'd like to just let you all settle the facade and see it one time, at the risk of just seeing it 50 times. Might as well get it to where you guys want it, and let's just look at it all at once. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah.
Anything else, anybody? All right, we have a motion for deferral and a second to the September 8th meeting. All those in favor of deferral, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Click. See you on the 8th, or DRC next week if. Thank you. Item number 8, consideration of alterations at a principal structure at 319 North Margin Street. Wilson Stevenson, if you want to hang out at the podium for me just a moment, Elizabeth has a staff report for us.
Thank you. So this property located at 319 North Margin Street is located in the downtown Franklin Historic District and features a circa 1900 one-story frame duplex. A COA was granted in 2021 for building alterations, including raising the building 1 foot, new wood siding on 3 facades, new cementitious siding on the rear facade, select window replacement, and deck expansion on the rear. The proposal today includes continuing with the exact same approved plans, however, with 2 new proposed alterations, which include the use of a smooth cementitious siding on all facades of the building and replacement of all windows on the building. The proposed smooth cementitious siding will utilize the approved 5-inch reveal for the entirety of the building. And the second alteration to the approved plans includes replacing the 2 original windows, which were to be preserved as a condition of approval on the issued COA. The windows were not able to be preserved due to termite damage and deterioration from past flooding. And the proposed windows will match the approved window profile of the windows which were included in the COA that was issued. The guidelines recommend the following: to replace deteriorated siding with siding that matches the original siding, and to smooth cement board siding may be appropriate for replacement of deteriorated wood siding on rear facades. This request is instead to install a smooth cementitious siding on all facades of the building, and the request to replace the 2 identified, which is not appropriate. The request to replace 2 identified original windows on the building with the window profile which has been previously approved for the remaining windows is appropriate. Staff recommends denial of the request for the installation of smooth cementitious siding on all facades based on the guideline to use smooth cement board siding as it is appropriate for replacement on deteriorated wood siding on rear facades, and staff recommends approval of the window replacement with conditions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Stevenson, anything you want to add, sir?
Yeah, to be clear, you're approving the windows and denying the siding on the 3 sides?
Yes, that is our recommendation.
Yes.
Okay. The reason for going to the cementitious siding, I mean, this house was originally built in the 20s, And to get to 2025, it took the wood siding for a number of years, and then it took asphalt siding on the outside of it, and then it took vinyl siding. And we're finally now in 2025. This house has been vacant since the early 90s, and we acquired it in '21. My dad acquired it. His search for the real estate agent, his instructions were to find the cheapest and worst-looking house in Franklin, and he did. He paid $350,000 for it, and he died 2 years ago. And like I say, we've spent close to $70,000 on a postage stamp lot trying to get this redeveloped. We're trying to do the best job we can with it, and putting inferior product on the outside of the house that looks identical doesn't make any sense. I mean, it took 3 different types of material to get us from 1920 to 2025, and I'm trying to do something here that looks identical. It's approved in the back, and you won't be able to tell the difference. I don't have to paint it every 3 years, and to me, it makes sense. I mean, this stuff's pre-painted, it lasts forever, and it's, I think, what would be the best for the house and the community. And we've spared no expense on this, trying to get it right. And you can see the 2 pages of the history of what we've done with the city and everything else battling through this. It's been very difficult, and we just want the best, and I feel this is the best for the house.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there pictures of the house somewhere?
Yes.
I thought I remembered seeing it, but I didn't. Maybe you brought it up and I wasn't paying attention. That's pre-lift, right?
It was not able to be lifted. We got started on it. There was no foundation. The termites were halfway up. The house had been burned at least twice. Like I say, it had been vacant since 1990. 2 other developers had tried and failed on it. I mean, we're currently ready to get to work. We can have this thing knocked out in no time if we can just get our approval and move ahead.
Okay, perfect. If you'll grab a seat, sir. Mr. Stevenson, we will let any citizens who want to comment on this one come up. Anybody here? No? Okay. All right, I would take a motion from one of the commissioners here. Yeah.
I move to approve it with the cement board if it's the same width as the current laps on the siding.
Okay. Holly? So you want to approve, is that both elements, the window replacement and the siding?
Yeah.
With staff comments? Okay, is there a second to that motion? Second.
We need Ms. Thompson to state why she's going to go with staff recommendation.
So staff is recommending it be actual wood. Is that the only option other than like replacing vinyl or whatever?
That was what was originally approved, to utilize wood siding on all 3 facades, and it's recommended to use cementitious siding only on the rear
Okay.
for historic residential buildings.
Okay. I guess I think if it's approved on the rear and it looks basically the same and it's longer lasting, to me it seems like it would not change the look, especially if it had vinyl in the past. And I don't know if that would be allowed to replace it with vinyl, but that seems like a lot worse option than doing the cement board. So
I'm going to
Okay.
second.
A second? Okay.
And I'll tell you why. I was on the commission when this house came before us in 2001. The house existed, and the intention of the commission was to repair the siding that's there. Well, from the pictures I see, I don't see a house.
Yeah.
All I see is a foundation, so there is no historic house there anymore. So to make the requirement with the intention that the commission had to begin with to keep the original siding, it doesn't exist. So I can't see, how cementitious siding, we would approve that for a new house or whatever, so.
Yeah, that's, I wanted y'all to pull the pictures up because it looks to me, and I don't know what state it is in today, if it's just that foundation or what, but for all intents and purposes, the whole house is new. I mean, even the foundation, there's not a whole lot left, so at that point, I'm like, okay, well, what are the guidelines say for a new house for siding? And would cementitious siding be appropriate for infill?
Was there a demo approval to get to this point?
It was not a request for demolition. The walls were moved off-site, and there was deterioration when they were stored off-site in the period of time when ownership changed due to the death. So they weren't preserved in that way.
So we lost what was tried to keep. No, sir. Sorry.
I
Yes.
guess we got to be careful not to set a precedent that a historic home gets demoed, then anything else can be built in its place.
Sure. Yeah, and I, when I see the proposal, it's not like they're putting back something that's.
There's nothing left to put back at this point.
Yeah, but they're building something that's essentially new, that is the same form factor as what was there. It's a duplex plan from what I'm seeing. So that's my only thought was, okay, it's basically a new building. And at that point, trying to make it replicate a historic structure is kind of disingenuous to what the whole attempt of the guidelines. If it's a new house, just let it be a new house. That's what's left of it, is a bunch of new stuff. So-
Part of the, Mr. Chair, part of the motion was for it to remain a similar width or the same width, is that right?
Yeah, you're talking about the reveal.
As the original?
The same
Yeah.
Okay, and then is this approving the windows as well?
Yes, we clarified that. It includes the windows, which were recommended for replacement. And
Okay.
in my understanding, the history there was, there were all but 2 windows approved to be replaced anyways, and those 2 didn't have enough left to save, so they would all be new windows
Yeah, I think there were only 2 original windows left.
in it, yeah.
But
So-
what does the guidelines say as far as, I was looking at the original grid pattern on the windows versus what's being proposed?
In that, I mean, like Brian said, there may be 2 original. The originals were those 2, which
Oh,
were,
I see.
are they 4/4?
They are 4/4.
On the sides,
So-
but then the front was different, yeah.
Yeah,
I see.
and really, does their old COA, is it still active? Or do we need to weigh in on this, just these 2 windows?
It is just these 2 windows since the other ones were approved and they had pulled a permit and started work.
Okay, so it's hard for us to say, except for those 2, that they need to match grid pattern, but
Right. Got it.
maybe they're hearing us and think, yeah, we can do that, but.
Well, was that part of staff's conditions that they matched the original?
Yes, that was what the original window profile that was approved was the Marvin, one of the Marvin line ones, and it matches what was
Okay.
originally there.
Good, okay. All right. Anything else, staff? Yes? All right, so we have a motion for approval with staff conditions to approve the cementitious siding and replacement of the 2 windows that were left, which would total sum all the windows being replaced. All right, let's vote on this. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, item 9, consideration of new construction at 1845 William Campbell Court, Lot 7 at Magnolia Hall. Jennifer Lombard wants to come up. Emily's got our staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let's see, let me get scrolled to the image. I'll do these. So the application has been to several design review committee meetings to discuss the overall architectural style of the proposed building. The proposal includes the construction of a 2-story cross-gabled residence with colonial revival architectural style features. The placement, scale, massing, height, architectural materials all appear appropriate per the design guidelines. For the materials, The foundation level of brick buildings, the guidelines recommend should be delineated through some type of belt course such as soldier or sailor coursings, and should have a height of at least 1 foot above the grade on the primary elevation. Additionally, the guidelines recommend that it's recommended to use wood or composite materials for windows that have the appearance of wood, which are appropriate for the windows, stops, jambs, and trim. While the window specifications have not been provided as part of the application, they should align with the guidelines. Several elements such as the lighting and the hardscaping materials have not been provided, and the guidelines recommend using simple fixtures that are appropriate to the scale of the house and constructed of historically prevalent materials, and avoiding ornate carriage lights or fixtures reflective of the 18th century, and using durable materials that were historically typical for driveways such as gravel, concrete, bricks, and asphalt. And staff recommends approval of the application with conditions. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Lombard, anything to add?
No?
Okay,
We're good.
quick and easy. Thank you. Are there any citizens who wish to comment on this application? Nobody ever wants to talk. All right, any motion from the commission?
I'll move to approve with staff's recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Madeline. Any second?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Discussion.
That adjustment made a huge difference. It looks great.
Yeah,
It's come a long way. It's looking good.
thank you. Anything over here? Yeah, I appreciate all the work that the team has done to get this scale feeling better. I think vastly improved. So thank you for that. All right, with no other comments, let's vote on the motion to approve with staff conditions. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item number 10, consideration of in-kind repairs and alterations. The Colt Barn and Hayes House Equipment Barn at 331 Franklin Road. That's at the Harlansdale Farm. If I don't see Miss Lisa here, is someone here from the Parks Department? If y'all want to come on up and hang out for just a moment, Emily's going to give a staff report, and we may have you give us an overview.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the park at Harlansdale Farm is located within the Franklin Road Historic District and is also on the National Register of Historic Places. The proposal includes the following: the in-kind repair and replacement of exterior elements on the Colt Barn and installation of doors on the Hayes House Equipment Barn. And so first is the Colt Barn, and here it is on the map, kind of showing its location on the site. So here, kind of where my mouse is showing, that's where the Hayes House is. This is the Colt Barn, and then this is the Hayes House Equipment Shed. So for the Colt Barn, the barn is located behind the Hayes House and closest to the pond. The application notes that within 2024 and 2025, severe storms compromised the structural stability of the barn, and emergency actions were taken to ensure the integrity of the barn. The proposal is seeking a retroactive COA for the emergency repair work and the restoration of the rest of the facade of the barn. The repair of the barn is supported by the guidelines. It is recommended to try to preserve as much wood material as possible on the site and replace it when restoration is not feasible. So on this slide, this shows the siding that was replaced, and this is the remaining siding that is proposed to be continued to be replaced. It's 45 feet in length. Then moving on to the Hayes House Equipment Shed, and the barn is located right beside the Hayes House, and it is proposed to recreate doors that are seen in historic photos of the barn on the east and south elevations. So on this elevation, you can see there are two existing, historically there were doors. Currently, there are not any doors, so they are proposing to replace those doors. And then on this facade that faces the side of the Hayes House, it is proposed to recreate the door that is seen right here. By utilizing historic photographs of the barn, the recreation of the doors on the southern and eastern elevations is supported by the guidelines. It is recommended to reuse existing wood in good condition that is currently on the site. Since this is a city project, staff does not make a recommendation, but there are some potential conditions should the Historic Zoning Commission approve the proposal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, if you'll give us your names and anything you want to add, we're happy to hear it.
I'm Trevor French.
Okay, Mr.
Kevin
French?
Lindsay, Superintendent of Facilities and Maintenance and also in Planning.
Okay.
Here to
Anything?
answer any questions.
Okay, anything you want to add besides what they shared with us?
I do not. I think we did want to paint the equipment barn white back like you've seen in the pictures. That is slated after, if you also choose to let us put the doors on. The reason why the doors are going on, there is a staircase on the inside, and there's no feasible way to shut that off to keep people from going up in there. Friends of Franklin Parks uses this shed as storage. So putting these doors on here would help them secure the site when we're not there.
Okay, perfect. All right, if you'll grab a seat, we may call you back up. Any citizens who want to comment? Okay, seeing none, let's take a motion from the commission.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve with staff conditions.
Second.
Michael, thank you.
And I'd like to say that the city has done a great job researching and putting back original material. That's to be applauded.
Just a quick clarification, did you also want to include the painting of the barn for it to go back to how it was historically done, of it
Yes.
being white?
That is the intention in the motion.
Perfect, thank you.
Michael, you okay with that? Okay. All right, so approval with staff conditions and painting just the equipment shed?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It'll be match the main barn, it'll be the same
Okay.
color, so that we're consistent throughout the farm.
Okay. Yeah, I'm excited to see them repairing these. The one thing I would say, and you can see it in this picture, and they may scroll back and forth, the doors are all dog-eared in the original, and it's missing a dog ear on the left. If y'all want to put that back, it'd make me really happy.
We can do that. We were going to fit it to the opening. The barn is a little square, maybe. So we're going to fit the doors to the opening, but we can put that dog ear back in.
And I want the door built just like the one in the picture, like Dr. Seuss.
That is those are 11-foot doors, so we're going to have to
Okay.
work with trying to make those still operable, but building them in a way that any and everybody can open them up and shut them, and they also stay shut. So Trevor's got his work cut out for him.
Perfect.
So, thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion for approval with staff conditions and painting of the equipment shed to be white per the pictures. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Painting party this fall. Y'all come on out, let's paint.
All right. Item number 11, consideration of an addition and alterations of a principal structure at 305 3rd Avenue South. We have Brandon Pretty. Is Brandon here? Oh, we got, in lieu of, come on up. We're going to hear from staff, from Emily first.
He just started
Thank
his
you.
Leadership Franklin class tonight, so,
That's good for him.
yeah.
All right, Miss Emily, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The property at 305 3rd Avenue South is located in the downtown Franklin National Register Historic District. The proposal includes the following: a retroactive approval of the installation of copper downspouts on the building, changing the roofing material on the rear addition, which was previously a detached garage, and an addition to the building that will include the 1990s minor accessory structure. For the downspouts portion of the application. So a retroactive COA is proposed for the installation of copper downspouts on the building. It is unknown if the downspouts that were removed were original to the building, but the new copper downspouts are appropriate for the age of the building. For the roofing change, This is a good photo for that. So on this rear portion that is labeled historic garage from 1950s, it's proposed to change that, the roofing on this portion of the building that was previously a 1950s detached garage. The guidelines recommend preserving historic roof forms and materials, and if partial or wholesale replacement is needed, use materials whose composition and appearance match the historic materials. Therefore, replacement of the roofing on the rear portion of the building does not align with the guidelines. Moving along to the addition, be on that slide, an 836 square foot addition is proposed on the right side of the building. The construction of the addition, including the form, placement, sizing, was appropriate per the guidelines. However, the lack of solids to voids on the building addition does not meet the design guidelines, as they recommend designing new windows to be compatible with the size, detailing, placement, rhythm, and relationship of solids to voids of those on the historic building. By not having the windows on the addition, it does not align with the guidelines and does not have a similar solid to void ratio that's seen on the building. Additionally, future lighting and hardscaping were not included as part of the application, and staff will need more information on these items if they are proposed. Additionally, it was not proposed to utilize downspouts and gutters on the addition, but it would be appropriate to utilize the same design that is seen on the building. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the change in roofing material from asphalt shingle to metal roofing and the construction of the addition based on the following grounds. That one should preserve historic roof forms and materials. If partial or wholesale replacement is needed, use materials whose composition and appearance match the historic materials, and design new windows to be compatible with the size, detailing, placement, rhythm, and relationship of solids to voids of those on the historic building. And staff recommends approval of the retroactive installation of the downspouts with conditions. And should the Historic Zoning Commission approve of the roofing material change and the construction of the addition, there are additional conditions.
Okay, thank
Thanks.
you very much. Yes, sir.
All right, good evening. Mike Hathaway, 906 Studio Architects. Thank you guys for your time. I know it's been a process, and we've had a lot of conversations about this project. Appreciate all the insight. We are, as you guys are, we're trying to do the best for the community as well as this homeowner. Relative to the roof, you probably have seen that the only piece of this whole building that is asphalt is that one garage. So I think the request was for more of a continuity in the design overall. So we definitely don't want to see that be the holdup for approval of everything, but definitely would request your consideration for that one section being metal so that it does have more continuity for the whole structure. Secondly, relative to the voids in the facade, somewhere along the way it was suggested that a smokehouse concept would be an approach that we should take. We agreed, and if you see the images in here, it's pretty rare that you would have too many openings in a smokehouse. Therefore, that's why we haven't shown any. One facade faces the side brick wall, so wouldn't have a whole lot of impact to anybody except 2 or 3 that walk along the side of that in that relatively small gap. So, and then the front, we've got a main door, just like you see in that upper left image. So conceptually, we're trying to follow through on that feel of a smokehouse, and therefore very simple detail, very simple fenestration. So we would just ask for your consideration from that perspective. We're not trying to make it look like it's an outbuilding of the original, well, I shouldn't say that. Not trying to not make it look like a formal outbuilding or a garden out structure from the building, but more of a smokehouse feel. So it's much calmer in detail and simpler in form. So would appreciate your consideration.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any citizens here who want to comment on this application? Okay, hearing none, let's go to the motion, go to the commission for a motion. Almost said commotion, which it might be. Better to break these up, or would you like to just?
I'm going to move to deny, with staff comments, the metal roof replacing the asphalt shingles at the same color, because that seems to be the issue, and the addition, based on staff comments.
Anything about the copper downspouts that have already been done retroactively? Or you
Well,
want to
I'd like-
hold off on that?
Let's make that a different motion.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion to deny with staff comments, the roofing replacement on the garage and the new addition, commensurate with staff's comments. Is there a second there?
So would that be to replace it with metal roofing or?
I think it would have to stay shingle.
Oh.
They
Unless
could-
they make another request.
Yeah, yeah, they just couldn't put metal on it right now.
In the same color. That was kind of,
Okay. Any second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Madeline? Okay, let's have discussion on this.
and as
Right.
far as discussion, so, and it's something I've always appreciated about historic structures that changed over time. When some of the materials changed with it, you actually see that contrast. And, even from the Google view, I mean, it really makes an impression of its change over time. And that's why I would suggest not putting a metal roof that's red that matches the rest of the house. It doesn't show the change over time.
Okay, anybody else? Yeah, I fall back on the guidelines, which are pretty clear that if it's been shingle, it's supposed to stay shingle. And, barring some really compelling argument, I stick with the guidelines usually. I think that's the best way to go. And then the new addition, I think the form is an improvement on what we've seen at DRC's. And I think it is very smokehouse looking, but it's also exaggerated in some dimensions, if that makes sense. So all of a sudden, it's twice as long as a smokehouse. It's like, well, now we've got these really long expanses of walls, and there's a big brick wall in front of it, but, who's to say, a tornado doesn't take the wall and all the trees down, and then this is what you see driving down past Pinkerton Park. This would be the view. And I'm not convinced it has to be windows, but some indication that there is openings of some sort, whether it's recesses with a soldier course on top, something that indicates and meets the guidelines that shows, hey, there's some rhythm of openings. They don't need the openings, but it meets the guidelines at that point. And we've approved things like shutters and all kinds of, implying that there's an opening.
Well, I
So-
think I'm the culprit in one of the DRCs that said maybe something like a smokehouse. But, smokehouses usually weren't over 800 square feet. I mean, a
it's
smokehouse would have been something probably 120 square feet. So I'm not sure, it seems to conflict with the Greek Revival house front on, with it being on the side. So anyway, we'd like to invite the applicant back to DRC as well.
Do we need to make a separate motion? Was the first motion just for the?
We have an active motion for denial for the roofing and the addition.
Okay.
So we're debating that at this
My
moment.
concern for the addition is the view shed from Third Avenue.
Yeah.
Even though there's a brick fence there, it will still be visible.
Yeah, and the fence could go away
Right.
tomorrow. Well, with approval, I think. All right. Any other discussion for this motion to deny those two elements of this application? All right, a reminder, the motion is for denial with staff comments on the roofing replacement on the garage and the addition. All those in favor of the motion for denial, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no? Okay, the ayes have that. Now, we need to hear a motion for the copper downspouts, which is retroactive. So that you can see them in the pictures there.
I move to approve.
I second.
Bob, thank you. Holly, thank you. Are there staff conditions on that one? Not really, since it's done. Okay. Any discussion on the copper?
I think it looks great.
Okay, let's vote. All those in favor of approval with staff conditions, or the lack of staff conditions for the copper downspouts, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Okay. Thank you very much on that one, Mr. Hathaway. All right, let's move to item number 12. What time is it? Okay. If we're still going at 6:30, we'll take a quick break. Is that fair? Is everybody comfortable with that? Okay. Item number 12, consideration of demolition principal and accessory structure at 119 Church Street. Emily has a staff presentation, and if John Ligon wants to head up to the podium and be ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the property at 119 Church Street is located in the downtown Franklin National Register Historic District. The National Register lists the building at 119 Church Street as non-contributing and being constructed circa 1920. The National Register does not list the accessory structure as being on the site. The proposal is for the demolition of the principal building and the accessory structure. The information provided on the accessory structure was that, let's see, I'll scroll real quick so we can look at those photos. The information provided on the accessory structure was that it is an 8x10 small metal shed that appeared to be of a 1980s construction. Based on the provided documentation, the removal of the accessory structure appears to not adversely impact the site. For the principal building, let's see, the guidelines do recommend conducting routine maintenance and major repairs on historic structures to ensure their preservation. Demolition is not permitted unless there are extraordinary circumstances. The guidelines provide that demolition can only be approved if the Historic Zoning Commission deems one or the more following conditions met. The first being if a building has lost its architectural and historic integrity and its removal will not adversely affect the district's historic character. If the denial of the demolition will result in an unreasonable economic hardship on the applicant as determined by the Historic Zoning Commission. And if the structural instability or deterioration of a property is demonstrated through a report by a structural engineer or architect with demonstrated experience working with historic structures. Such a report must clearly detail the property's physical conditions, reasons why rehabilitation is not feasible, and cost estimates for rehabilitation versus demolition and construction of a comparable structure. In addition to this report, there should be a separate report that details future actions on the site. Within this submittal, new cost estimates were provided for both the rehabilitation of the existing structure and the complete reconstruction of a new one. The estimated cost to rehabilitate the building is $975,000, and to build a new structure will be $590,000. A contractor who builds new custom houses provided these numbers on behalf of the applicant. It is unclear whether or not the contractor has experience working with historic buildings, as their website states that they handle any new construction need. While photos have been provided showing the deterioration of the building, and the cost estimates have also been provided as well, the cost estimates have been provided by a contractor that does not have experience with historic buildings. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the demolition of the principal building based on the following ground. If the structural instability or deterioration of a property is demonstrated through a report by a structural engineer or architect with demonstrated experience working with historic structures. Such a report must clearly detail the property's physical conditions, reasons why rehabilitation is not feasible, and cost estimates for rehabilitation versus demolition and construction of a comparable structure. In addition to this report, there should be a separate report that details future action on the site. Staff does recommend approval of the demolition of the circa 1980 metal accessory structure with conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ligon.
Good evening, I'm Matt Ligon, my brother John. This is our third time before you tonight. We hope you feel like we have been responsive to every request. We have documentation from 2 engineers, a house mover, 2 contractors that have all stipulated that there are safety concerns with trying to restore this location. We understand and appreciate the concern to preserve historic dynamics in Franklin. This town is important to all of us, but this structure has not had structural integrity since it was built. The suggestion that we preserve means that we would have to replace every element of the home. If everything would be new, what would then be historic? It is our understanding that only one of the requirements out of the 3 must be met for demolition that was just listed. We feel like we have shown proof and due diligence to this process by meeting not one, but all 3 of the requirements. We hope you will approve our request tonight. And I do want to say, I talked to Michael Lee right before this. He was trying to come to speak on our behalf. Michael Lee has looked at the house, and he agrees that it is not restorable, feasible to restore it. As he was working on the project next door. He's been a friend for a while. But I don't have anything from him because we thought he was going to be able to make it, but he was not able to. So, again, we hope you will approve our request tonight, and we thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. John, do you have anything to add? That's good? Okay, thank you. Any citizens want to comment on this application? Yes, sir.
My name is Mark. I actually live at 203 2nd Avenue South.
What's your last name, Mark?
Miersma. It's Miersma. So, yeah, my lovely house. It's beautiful. I just finished restoring it. But when I'm looking through the window, I share the same plight as the Ligon family here. I would love if it was torn down. Again, I'm all about restoration, especially since I spent the last year and a half lovingly restoring my home. But with that being said, looking at that house, right there, it was built respectfully in the 1920s. It was built as a duplex. It's aesthetically not even really worth saving, if you will. I feel in a sense, I got kind of my own terminology, but I feel like we're putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. Honestly, if it was something that had some hysterical, some characteristics that were worthy of being restored, I'd say let's do backflips, but it isn't. Moreover, I actually walked through the house with Mr. Michael, a contractor, and a civil engineer. The floor joists are rotten. The foundation is just dust. So I'd have to concur with what Matt and John both said. It's just not worth it, at this point. Moreover, speaking for myself as well as the residents that live at the brownstones across the way, it's just it's a tremendous eyesore. So I understand that you guys are in a position of wanting to make sure you're doing due diligence, but if you were living right next door to this monstrosity, I think you'd be a little bit more proactive to want to make a more expedited decision in regards to this situation. So anyway, just wanted to speak my mind.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, any other citizens? Yes, ma'am.
We did get a submitted public comment for this one, and it was included and published into the,
Right.
for the record.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, anybody else? Citizens want to comment? Okay, seeing none, let's go to the commission for a motion. All right, let's tackle the shed in the backyard demolition request. Is there a motion on the demolition of the non-historic shed in the backyard?
Motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Okay, Madeline, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Michael. A motion and second to demolish the backyard shed. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Motion passes. Now let's take up the demolition of the primary structure. We do need to have a motion to start discussion here, so that doesn't indicate which way you're voting. It's just a motion for discussion, if that helps. Is that true, council?
I make a motion to approve the demolition of this structure.
Okay. And Michael, go ahead and give your rationale if you have one.
Based on the condition of what we've seen and what's been discussed, I have a hard time finding something left to save here.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, Brian. Okay, let's have some discussion.
So the discussion that I would like to start is that, these are the very tough decisions that you have, for me, for a board like this, because even though this is what many would consider a shack, it still has some artistic or some historical significance to our city. And if it had been under roof for the last couple of years, my vote might be different tonight. Because I have done some rehabilitation of old structures, so I'm familiar with even in the best of conditions, when they're under roof, with dry rot, wet rot, termites, post beetles, you name it, they've all got it. But when a structure like this one had a tree fall on the roof, and it's been exposed to the elements for the past 2 years, to rain and snow and heat and insects, I mean, there's nothing left to save. So in order to, if we say this has to be saved, basically it has to be completely all the material replaced, which is no longer an old house. So given that, our guidelines give us guidance on these tough decisions, and they give us the 3 criteria that's been stated by staff tonight, and the engineer's report and the contractor's report, they tell all that it meets the criteria of the guidelines. It could be argued even it's been altered so much over time that it no longer has its historic significance. It's a non-contributing structure by the National Register. So given that, I'd make the tough decision. I think demolition is appropriate in this instance. I've only twice since I've been on the commission, this will be number 2, that we voted in this way. And they're all tough votes.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian. Madeline, did you have something?
Yeah, the only thing that is a little bit of a question mark for me is how did we get to the numbers that we got to? The new structure versus,
I think those are, I think we've had a couple different numbers come through, and they're in a range based on who put them together, but I think the guidelines require them to be by an architect or contractor with experience in historic homes, and we've had multiples of that variety. And there was, I think Mr. Ligon provided one himself. He is a contractor, to which we said a third party would be, hold muster better.
Yeah, sure.
So this third party has provided one as well, and so they're ranges of numbers. So that's where those numbers come from. I don't think staff or commission helps come up with those. Those are all applicant provided.
Mhm.
Any other questions, thoughts? I agree with Brian here that this is difficult. He was able to express it very well with what he said. These types of houses that were not meant to be architectural statements when they were built, they're still contextual. And I think that's what's important is where's the line? Are we going to go down Fair Street and tear down all the small ones, or all the ones that aren't as fancy? No. So I do want to say that our community is made up of all different types of contextual architecture, and they all contribute to that in some way. And of course, some more than others, but some more ornate and some more plain. It's part of who we are and what we have, our stock of kind of historic properties. So, but this one, like Brian said, has been meddled with. It's in bad enough shape based on the reports and cost estimates that I in this case, feel comfortable with the motion.
One other question is,
Yes.
if something else after demolition, what happens? Do they have to rebuild or build a new?
I think the guidelines say that they have to provide for Avenue number 3, which is the structural engineer's report, you have to have some idea of what you're doing, proposal. And they've said they don't really have one. It's going to be green space.
Gotcha.
And I believe the property next to it that burned is already green space.
Is that already? I remember that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
And in the conditions of approval for the demolition of that accessory structure, we did have as the first condition that any new proposed development on the lot shall obtain a COA from the Historic Zoning Commission.
yeah, so they'll come back if they decide to do something.
Right, okay.
I have just one last comment and thought, and this is for the applicant. There are a few historical elements in the house, like mantels, maybe some doors, maybe even some sashes that might be still usable, and they could all be salvaged before, if the board decides to grant demolition.
Okay, that's a good point. Anything else? Bob?
I would just say, even though we're leaning towards the demolition of this, we all need to be mindful that at one point, this side of town, Civil War was a nice part of town. It had its days where it, kind of went down. It's come back up again with a vengeance. And I think anyone in this room needs to remember our history and remember, how we are now is how we were not 50 years ago, and just be mindful to remember all of our history, as Brian said, not just certain parts of it.
Sure. Okay, thank you for that. All right, let's vote. We have a motion to approve demolition with whatever staff conditions are attached to that. Motion by Michael, second by Brian. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. The motion passes. Thank you very much, gentlemen. All right. I think we're ready to take just a quick break. We don't have a lot more to do here, but I do need a motion to recess to do so. Okay, Brian, is there a second? Brian and Bob. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of recess, aye? Aye. All right, let's come back in 6 minutes, 6:40. All right. We are back at item number 13, and it is consideration of an consideration of an addition on a principal structure and alteration in addition to an accessory structure at 1008 Fair Street. Elizabeth has our staff report, and Mr. Lane, if you want to start heading up.
Thank you. This property located at 1008 Fair Street is in the Hinchyville National Register Historic District, and the site features a circa 1889 one-story federal-style house. The proposal includes a request for an addition to the principal building and alterations and an addition to the accessory structure. This proposal was previously submitted for a DRC review, but staff recommended to the applicant that there should be significant redesign prior to attending a DRC meeting, and the application was withdrawn. This proposal was subsequently submitted for a formal Historic Zoning Commission review. For the principal building addition, a two-story, 164-square-foot addition is proposed on the rear of the principal building. The height of the historic building is 18 feet, and the height of the proposed addition is 20 feet, 10 inches, and utilizes a pop-up camelback form. The proposed pop-up form is highly inappropriate per the guidelines, and the proposed two-story addition is not subordinate to the one-story historic building and compromises the scale relationship between the historic building and the addition. Because significant redesign and additional information are necessary, an analysis of the windows, entrances, deck, materials, exterior finishes, details, and ornamentation was not conducted, as they will need to be redesigned as well to accommodate an appropriate form for the addition. For the accessory structure, alterations, and an addition, this includes addition to the existing accessory structure. The National Register lists the building as a circa 2000 structure. Historic Sanborn maps indicate that historically there may have been a structure in the same area as the existing structure. However, this was reviewed as a non-historic accessory structure due to the information from the National Register. Proposed alterations to the existing structure include the addition of a dormer on the rear facade and the addition of a front-facing gable. The roof pitches of the roof forms have not been included. Neither information nor specifications for the materials, details, windows, or garage doors have been called out in this application. A 420-square-foot addition is proposed to the existing accessory structure as well. The proposed alterations and additions do not increase the compatibility of the structure and appropriateness of the structure within the district, and the proposed alterations and additions create a mass that is not consistent with the massing and scale of surrounding historic accessory structures. A more thorough review of the proposal cannot be completed as information or specifications for the materials, details, windows, garage doors, or lighting have not been called out or included in the application for review. Staff recommends denial of the addition to the principal building and alterations and addition to the accessory structure based on the guidelines listed in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lane, would you like to add some comments for us?
Yes, Jacob Lane. I wanted to clear up, I know I want to clarify roof pitches and the dormers do follow code. They are 312 for the dormer. And also reiterate that the front facade will not be touched. The character of the historic home is very important to us. We want to carry that character through to the back, but would love to hear your comments.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to share anything?
Not yet.
Okay, thank you. Well, this is your chance.
We'll wait for y'all.
Okay, grab a seat, please. Thank you so much. Any citizens wish to comment on this particular application? Okay, hearing none, let's go to the commission for a motion, please.
Just to clarify, there was one public comment that was submitted and published with the agenda packet.
Okay.
Move to deny this application based on all of the staff's comments.
Okay, Michael, is there a second?
Second.
Madeline. Deny with staff comments. Okay, any discussion here?
I'd like to invite the applicant to DRC.
Yeah. Anything else, anybody? Yeah, I think the massing here is not something that really even approaches what is allowable or recommended in the guidelines. So a lot of work needs to be done here to get it within compliance there for us to consider it for approval. So I agree with the motion to deny at this time, but would love to see the applicant at DRC.
And actually, before DRC, I think it would be good to spend time with staff,
Yeah.
you know, for direction on this, too.
Absolutely. Yeah, they can give a lot of good guidance. Anything else? Okay, let's vote. We have a motion on the floor to deny with staff comments. All those in favor of denial, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Motion passes. If the applicant wants to come to DRC next Monday, you need to tell staff before close of business tonight. You guys work till midnight, right? All right, thank you. Item number 14, consideration of alterations at 109 3rd Avenue South, City Hall and City Hall Park. And Anna Ruth is on her way up, but we're going to hear from Emily first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The property at 109 3rd Avenue South is the site of the previously approved demolition and construction of the City of Franklin's new City Hall. The proposal includes the following items: the rooftop mechanical screening, roofing materials, gates and railing, windows and doors specifications, lighting for the building, site, and park elements, and hardscaping. All of these proposed items appear appropriate per the design guidelines, but since this is a city project, staff does not make a recommendation, but there are some potential conditions should the historic zoning approve of the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just hit this button.
Miss Anna Ruth?
Okay. Oh, wow. Technology's working. Hang on just a second. My mouse isn't working. Okay, there we go. Good evening. My name's Anna Ruth Kimbrough with Studio 8 Design. I am the design team representative for the new Franklin City Hall. Gary Seaball with OHM Advisors. He's our architecture partner on the job. And then we have Gary Vogren here, who is with KVD, the landscape architecture firm. So as staff mentioned, we have several items that were conditions of approval for the previous COA. So we're going to go through those quickly. I know some of you weren't at the DRC meeting with us, so if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt, or we can wait till the end as we go through each one of these items. So the first item I want to go over is in our last in the COA voting meeting, it was brought up that the steps at the plaza on the corner should be squared off instead of rounded. So we have made that change, as you can see in the top left rendering. We also lowered the height of the brick planters, which are along 3rd Avenue at that ADA ramp, and then the plinths on the front entry piece. And then we're bringing tonight the mechanical rooftop equipment screening material, which we have a sample here, which is in the antique bronze to match the windows and other details on the building. There'll be a combination of louvers and solid panels. And then we have an enclosed rooftop penthouse that will have clad in thin brick to match the brick of the City Hall building. And as you can see in the renderings in the top right and bottom left corner, you cannot see the mechanical rooftop screening from the square or from West Main. And you can also not see it from the alley because the alley's right up against the building and it's set back far enough. We've also brought the roofing material for the pediments that you can see in the top left rendering, which is this soft gray material here, metal roofing, which complements the limestone pediments on the main City Hall building, and then on the stair enclosure, if you remember, that's in the park that goes down to the parking garage. And then this slide's good to reference back to as we go through all the other elements. This is a summary of all the materials. So as you remember, we went through all the brick panel review. And so the top brick is the Belden 730, which is the brick for the City Hall portion of the building, which is this one here. And then we have we're proposing a dark bronze for the windows. And then brick 2 is what you see on that courtyard arcade connector and the setback portion, the third floor behind the commercial, and that's this brick right here, which is a lighter brick. And then the metal, again, is what we're proposing for the window finish. And then we have the dark brown brick, which is on that commercial portion at the end of the building, the 2-story portion. And then you can see the metal roof and the equipment screen has been added to this sheet, just to kind of show you all the materials. So I'm going to go into the gates and railing design. We looked at different examples around the square. So this is 231 Public Square, Williamson County Courthouse, black metal, and wrought iron. And then there's some other examples on the Harpeth Square development with the railing at the ground plane, and then different wrought iron railings at the brownstones and gates. We also looked at historic examples of residential porch, since there's a lot of residential architecture around this site. So here is the railing design proposed for this landmark building. We wanted it to be unique but tie into the history. So we used shapes that were found in some of those historic examples. In the DRC meeting, we just had line work. We've given this some thickness, so it has 1/2-inch members for the vertical members and then 3/8 for the arch members and the circular members. You can see it in that enlarged detail. And then this is, oh wait, let me go back. So the railing is on the second floor of the arcade connector in the courtyard, and it would also be the design for the gates that go into the courtyard. And those would remain open during the day and are just closed at night for security. And then this is the railing on the third floor on the entry elevation, same design. Okay, so when we came to you previously with the windows, we had a clad wood window from Marvin. As we've developed the design, we've run into some issues with commercial hardware working on a clad wood door. The type of commercial hardware we need on a city hall is electrified for card readers and those sorts of things, and panic bars that have a dowel down through them that's not usually put into wood-clad doors. So we started researching historic examples of aluminum doors. And we found this company, Boyd, that has a nice, almost like a tapered profile that looks like the putty glazed windows that we discussed in our previous meeting. And they can accommodate the hardware. So this slide's showing you the comparison between the wood-clad window from Marvin and Boyd. So the profile in blue is the Boyd overlaid over the red profile of Marvin. And you can see we've worked with them. They're going to do a custom design to get this as close as possible to a wood-clad window that's in all aluminum. We've also added a 3D view of the window since the last time you saw it in DRC. Oh, and the corner staple right here. So this is showing you the wood mold profile that is exactly what Marvin was going to provide on the clad wood window. Yes. Oh, sorry. Take it with you. Yeah, let me just, thanks, Gary. And you can see the tapered mutton bar profile that is reminiscent of the old putty glazed window. Before on the Marvin window, some comments were that we had an OG profile and a larger flat on the taper that might not be as historic as what we were looking for. Don't pay attention to this being black because this is cut from a laser cutter in plastic just to show you the profile. This material will be the same as the window. And then this 3D view will give you a better view of what the sill will be, because I know in DRC there were a lot of questions about that since this is not what the sill is going to be. Highlighted in yellow, we went back to Boyd to ask them if they could decrease that step in the sill, and they were able to decrease it 5/8 inch more. So that's just showing you the change. Thank you, Gary. And then in DRC, we also talked about the scale and proportion of the mutton bars in relation to the overall size of the window. So what this is showing you is what it would look like in the clad wood Marvin versus the Boyd with 3/4 inch muttons. So we feel like the scale of the 3/4 inch works well with the scale of the window. Again, this is the materials, just to remind you. So exterior lighting, again, we started with looking at the context. So in the square, you have, of course, the courthouse. It has 2 coach lights flanking the entrance, and it's mostly lit by the street lights, the ambient light from the street lights, and you can see the interior lighting coming from the main openings. And then it has a backlit clock in the pediment. There's uplighting of statues, and then the rest of the square, Main Street, is predominantly lit by the street lights, but the street lights are a lot closer to the buildings. The street lights are about 8 feet away from the buildings along West Main, where our streetscape is a lot deeper at 20 feet. So we're not going to get the same amount of light from the street lights on our site. And then, as you know, some sconces that light signage and some coach lights on Red Pony. And then on the more recent construction, these are taller buildings that are 3 to 4 stories. So there's some uplight wall grazing lights that light up the architecture, but the cornice and the entablatures catch that light from going into the sky. So after our discussion in DRC, we're proposing keeping the pediments lit. For those of you that were there, when you take the lighting off the pediment, you lose that scale and form of the building, and it just looks like it ends at the cornice line. We have some uplighting on the 3rd floor, and then we added coach lights to either side of the main entrance. We'll have a picture of that coach light later in the presentation, so you can see the scale of it. And then the rest of the lighting is down lighting that lights the pathway to the 2nd Avenue garage for safety and around that plaza area. And then, of course, we have the interior emergency lights on. Keep in mind that with our lighting system, we're going to be able to adjust the intensity and get it to the way we want, just with current today's designs. Huh? Yes, we lowered the lights. And it'll be a warm light, probably around 2,700 to 3,000 Kelvin, which is kind of like an incandescent warmer light. And then this is the rendering of the lighting on the boardroom portion of the City Hall facing 3rd Avenue, so it's across from the courthouse. We also are lighting this pediment and have some uplight on the pilasters at the top, which keeps the form of the building intact in the evening. And then we have some uplights on those limestone bases to either side of the boardroom portion of the elevation, and again, downlights along the pedestrian path. You can see the street light in this one, how far away it is from the building, and it doesn't really illuminate the 1st and 2nd floor of the building, so that gives you a good example of how little light comes from the street lights when they're that far away. And then we have uplights on the flagpoles. And then this is the arcade connector between the City Hall portion of the building and the 2-story commercial. It's just a soft light to accentuate those arches. And then in the background, you can see there's a fountain element in that courtyard that'll be lit at night so that you can see it through the gates. And then to your right, you see the beginning of the commercial. You'll see that we do have some uplights on the 2nd floor of the commercial, which is different and a departure from what's on Main, but there's a couple reasons for this. This commercial's, anchoring the park. It's further down 3rd Avenue, and the City Hall portion of the building separates the commercial from the square. So what we're trying to do is bring pedestrian traffic down 3rd Avenue to this commercial at night and feel like the lighting gives that a good destination and makes it feel safe for pedestrians. And this is it looking the other way from across 3rd Avenue. So you can see the 2-story commercial with the soft light along the 2nd story. There's also, if this became a restaurant, there's opportunity for outdoor dining, which also provides some safety and security for patrons of those tenants. And then you're not seeing any lighting on the sign ban or on the signs because the tenants will bring that forward when they occupy the space. And then this is our stair enclosure with the stair down to the parking garage level. We talked about in DRC potentially flanking the entrance with coach lights. So we are showing that in the rendering now. We liked that idea. And so we'll show you the actual fixture later on. And then these, I'm going to go fairly quickly, but these are just showing you what the fixtures look like and their locations on every elevation. This fixture in particular is meant to blend in with the brick, so it'll be custom color or painted to match the brick color wherever it is on the building. And then we'll have recessed canopy lights at entrances, so you can see the green 3s where those will be. And then this is that elevation facing 3rd Avenue, so we have the uplights on the flagpoles, a couple of those wall grazers at the courtyard, and then the same downlights. And then the linear lights are the ones that are doing the uplighting at the top of the building, but they'll be concealed. You will not see them. You'll only see the light. And then this is the entry elevation. We forgot to show the recessed canopy lights during our DRC meeting, so that they're now labeled. And then we have the coach lights to either side of the entry. The proposed design is unique to this building. It has some rounded shapes to it that kind of speak to the arches and some of the Italianate architecture in the retail and throughout the building. This is about 28 inches tall and 15 inches wide is the size of it. And we looked at the size of the coach lights on the courthouse. They are about 48 inches tall, so they're a good bit bigger, but with the scale of our arch and the scale of our entry, we felt like this proportion worked better. And you can see them again in the rendering if you want to go back and look. And then this is the lighting throughout the park. So we have different kinds of lighting to maintain security throughout the park. So we have pole-mounted lights that are 15 feet tall instead of they're 12 feet tall instead of the 17-foot street lights. So they are brought down some for the pathways of the park. And then we have some down lights on the vertical elements, trellis elements, bollard lights along the back plaza area where the alley is. And then the remainder of the light is low light that are in-wall step lights that light the path. And then, of course, we have the main fountain in the center that will be lit. Okay. Moving on to park elements. So these are the 3 fountains that are proposed for on-site. We have the main central fountain, which we reviewed with some of you in DRC. We were talking about either doing like a precast basin or doing an iron basin from Robinson Iron. But we showed you one that was white. We discussed potentially bringing in the Franklin green or a patina green on that basin. So we're proposing the patina green, which is the far right one for that basin. And then it'll have a limestone clad pedestal and limestone walls with engraving on it, as we've discussed in our previous meetings. And then there are 2 other smaller fountains. The one that I mentioned in the courtyard that'll be lit at night. If you look at fountain number 3, it's a prefab unit from Robinson Iron, and it's in that darker green, which is the one in from the lighter green. And then the wall fountain, it's back in the garden area of the park. It'll be up against the wall, and it's in a stone material that ties in nicely with the limestone. And I actually brought a sample of that tonight because I didn't have it from DRC. So that's that one. All right, and then the vertical elements in the park, the trellis design, there's 3 places that we have trellises. The main trellis that is in between the fountain and the green lawn, they're labeled on your slide. You might have to zoom in a little bit to see them. And then we have trellis or arbor elements over the swinging benches at the top right of the park, north of the green. And then we have a trellis that kind of softens that screen wall that we have along the loading corridor service area to the commercial. These images over here are just showing you, we'll have brick bases on the columns, and we're proposing the wood portions of the trellis in white, the columns and the arbor members. So this is it. So the column design comes from the kind of architecture that you see in the residential porches around the site. So we have brick bases, white columns, and then white pergola members, and then brick bases. And then we also have, we're proposing the swings in the Franklin green color to tie in with the Franklin benches. And then these are paving materials that are proposed for the park. There is the standard Pine Hall brick paver, and then all the different patterns that KVD is proposing. So these are all color-coded for the different patterns. And then back in the garden portion of the park, we before had a loose aggregate. A lot of people were concerned with that, so we're doing a fixed aggregate that you can see. It's the second one down on the right. It ties in with the colors of the pavers. And then this sheet is showing you the planters. So the one on the right is the wider, shorter one that will be on the plinths at the entry on the square. And then the one on the left is the taller planters that will be at the arcade connector for the courtyard. And then the standard trash can for the site. And then this is a slide just showing you the furnishings that are proposed for the park and throughout the site. So of course the Franklin bench up in the upper left, and then the rest of the furniture ties in nicely with that character. And then we also are proposing some pieces with some wood just to warm it up, and since it's in a park setting. And I think that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's see if there's any community members who would like to comment. I think everybody's here is on your team. They did. All right. Not that this isn't interesting. All right. So no comments from the galley. Let's take a motion from the commission, please.
Are we gonna break this down a little?
We can break it down. Yeah, do we need to?
Move to approve, Mr. Chair. There are no staff comments.
Okay. Brian, Michael. Now let's discuss anything that you have comments on, please.
Yeah, I wanted to, did you want to go?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just simply discuss some of the window elements. I do think it's more appropriate to have the thinner muntin pattern. But I noticed, like in the example that we had that actually shows the Marvin and the Boyd window, where it shows the meeting rails. So if you want to get to that
Yep.
part, right there, you were just one more.
You want to go one? Okay.
Well, let's see, try again. It actually shows the side-by-side light pattern of both
Oh,
the Boyd
that,
and the,
right
there
there,
we
right
go.
there you go.
Right there. So when I look at the Marvin, the W2, you know, where you have the appearance of double hung and you have the meeting rails, it looks like a single meeting rail, but you usually have that shadow line that creates those. In the Boyd, it looks like it's almost flat. Are those two actually, you know, you don't see the one meeting rail, you actually see two
Right.
lines. So what is that?
I think you can see it better in this section cut, so you can see the red in the middle, the meeting rail, is the Marvin. So that's the one line you're seeing where you see that step in the aluminum profile in blue. Do you see that? Right here. Yeah. So this is the Marvin,
Okay,
and this is the Boyd one. And then it goes straight to the tapered profile of the Muntin bars, the perimeter Muntin bars.
so you do kind of see a double, where with the Marvin, you see the one meeting rail, it almost looks like you have two elements.
It's like that sash overlaps in a true double home.
It does.
Yeah, fully overlaps, and you just, yeah.
But, you know, it kind of, as I was looking at that, it kind of reminded me of just something that would be flat. But this actually has a double hung appearance.
Correct, correct. Yeah, because there's an offset.
So you do have that offset.
Yeah, see, this glass is in this plane up here and this plane down here. So there is an offset.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did have another question about the coach lights for the entrance. And I'm assuming what I'm seeing is there's the coach light that attaches to the wall and has a gooseneck. That's the one that's being proposed and not the
Correct.
one that we see.
Right here. See that one? Yeah, they just only had a picture of the one that's pole mounted, but it would be this drawing, but that's what the actual picture of it would look like on the gooseneck.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay, thank you. Michael, did you have something?
Yes, second to last slide with the park benches. A little concerned about there not being a bar in the middle of those to keep anyone from using them as a bed. Has that been discussed anytime during the design process or selection?
Our security consultant had mentioned it, but based on our, like, Franklin's level of crime and future projection of crime, they didn't feel like it was necessary. But they do recommend that in big cities, you know.
Right.
And we have made a good effort to try to keep the lighting subtle in the park, but enough light for security cameras to operate at night. So they do have the foot candle level that the security cameras can keep surveillance over the park area too.
Okay.
Anybody else? Madeline?
Yeah, the only concern that I had was the style of the railings. Having a historic look. I'm looking at your other pictures, like at the brownstones, and I see it has similar elements with the details of it, but it just feels really contemporary to me.
At design review, didn't you say it was going to be thicker than just that appearance?
Yeah, sorry, it's taking me forever. So it is thicker. It's the thickness of what you would see in a steel or wrought iron railing. So it's 1/2-inch pieces with 3/8 inch on the circular and arch pieces. The reason we did something different is just because this is City Hall and it's going to be here for a lifetime, and we wanted it to be something that spoke to the history and spoke to the context, but was unique to this landmark building for Franklin. So that's the reasoning behind the design.
Yeah, when I look at the style of the building and how hard y'all worked to make it fit downtown Franklin, and then I look at the light you selected, which I think is great and fitting, I feel like the style of that just doesn't fit with everything else. But that's my 2 cents.
Thank you for those comments. Yeah, I've studied this rail after our last meeting a bit, and I actually don't mind kind of the circle and the arch and that part of it. I keep going back to some of these newels and things, and I'm thinking, okay, if those are 1/2 inch, those newels are they're pretty beefy.
Yeah,
And most ironwork is, the whole point is to be pretty slender. So I don't know. I'm afraid it's going to look like you've taken a traditional kind of iron panel and set it into these big newel posts. And that's like, we see the one there in front of Colacino's, which is Harpeth Hotel. Is that part of the Harpeth Hotel, the bottom? And they've, are those aluminum? Yeah, and so they have to beef up to hold up. But that's my only thought there, is that those newels seem a little heavy. I mean, that, even what you're showing in your drawing is bigger than that, remember? I mean, they look like they're maybe 4 or 6 inches square. I don't know, they're 8. They look pretty big.
They're probably, I would say, 3.5 to 4.
Yeah, that, but look at the guardrail up top. Those are really beefy. That's what I'm looking at. I get the gate has to have a lot of heft, but
I
those,
think
those posts.
you're also seeing that maybe one of those verticals up against the post, so maybe.
So kind of laminated to
Yeah,
the side of it. Okay, okay, maybe that's what I'm seeing, but they seem heavy, but again, it's a piece of paper and you got, the only thing black on here is that, so it's just, reads heavy. But I don't mind the design. I think it's understated a little bit for what all else you have going on, but I kind of like that. I'm not trying to make this a historic building. It's not. So I'm okay with that. Any other comments, anybody?
Well, I would agree with Madeline and you both that it seems a little lackluster. I mean, there is a benefit to the simplicity too. I both see those. I'd almost like to have seen some really, a workup of some real, photographs of not just something that's drawn up, but something that's actually, what it looks like, the materials. That would have been nice. So I'll just make that comment.
That could make a difference, actually, to be able to see that. But, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that is one of our conditions of approval, because we haven't settled on a material. We don't know if it's steel or wrought iron or aluminum. That's, I hate to say the word budget, but like, we're going to see what it comes back in those materials and bring that material back to you guys so you can see the difference in the appearance of it, and we can make a decision then.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay, we have an active motion here for approval with staff comments. That kind of carte blanche covers everything. So if we're ready, let's make a vote for approval with the comments, with staff comments. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Motion passes. Yeah, we look forward to seeing and hearing more about that. So thank you for that. Thank you all so much. 14. Item 15. We'll give them just a moment here, since we're all that's left,
Yes.
the contingent.
So, the city so sorry.
You want me to read this one in? You can go if you want. This is consideration of HPO rezoning recommendation request for 171 Hillhaven Lane, parcel ID 063-02101. Emily, with our staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The city undertakes annual zoning ordinance updates, and 2 nominations are proposed to be in the Historic Preservation Overlay for the property on Mack Hatcher Parkway that is located by Harlansdale Farm, noted as parcel ID 063-02101, and land located by Roper's Knob, located at 171 Hillhaven Lane. So, due to the location of the properties in relation to Harlansdale Farm and to Roper's Knob, the property owners of these 2 properties, the City of Franklin and Franklin's Charge, have worked with the city staff and requested that the property be rezoned and placed within the Historic Preservation Overlay. The city-owned property that fronts Mack Hatcher Parkway and Aldersgate Way, that is shown on the screen, and is adjacent to Harlansdale Farm to the south. The property is approximately 54 acres. For the property at 171 Hillhaven Lane, that is shown on the screen. It is positioned so that the property will connect to the city-owned portion of Roper's Knob. The Roper's Knob fortifications were entered on the National Register as part of the Civil War Historic and Historic Archaeological Resources in Tennessee Multiple Property Submission. Therefore, it is recommended that the Historic Zoning Commission recommend approval to the Planning Commission and to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for the proposed Historic Preservation Overlay District rezoning. The Planning Commission and the BOMA are both slated to consider the proposed rezoning at their respective meetings in the coming months. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any citizen here who wishes to comment on this particular item? Okay, I see no one. Okay, I would take a motion for, again, this is for a recommendation, not for a COA. So motion for recommendation of the rezoning request to the Planning Commission and BOMA.
Mr. Chair, I move to recommend to the Franklin Planning Commission and to the BOMA the rezoning into the historic zoning, or a favorable recommendation for rezoning into the historic zoning overlay, the two parcels presented.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Madeline, thank you. Any discussion? None?
Yes, I have been to the parcel that will actually, is adjacent to Roper's Knob. Franklin's Charge has done a great job in supplying that to the city, and it's great to see the other coming into the historic zoning overlay too.
Okay, thank you for that. Anybody else? All right, we have a motion for a favorable recommendation to Planning Commission and BOMA for these two parcels to be rezoned into the historic zoning overlay. Is that what it's called?
Historic Preservation Overlay.
HPO. I was
Yeah,
close.
HPO, yeah.
I missed the operative word. All right, all those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Is that it?
I do have
Staff?
one reminder that there will be a special DRC scheduled for Thursday, August 21st at 3 o'clock for the Harpeth Village mixed-use plan development and the review of the modification of standards. And this special DRC will be held at 324 Liberty Pike, Suite 150, which is located at Jameson Station. And if you all joined us for the last special DRC related to this topic, it's in the same place in the building.
What date in August is that?
It's
21st.
Thursday, August 21st.
Thank you very much. All right. If there's no other announcements, I would take a motion for adjourn.
So moved.
Michael, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Madeline. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.